In this lesson, we're going to cover IAM Advanced Topics. We'll take a look at all of the following: users and groups, users and resources, policy evaluation logic, how to use federated users, IAM roles, and MFA. First up, users and groups. Groups can definitely have permissions, and this is what you're going to want to set them up for. Groups, however, do not have their own key. Only users do. You do have a hard limit of 100 groups per account, and a group policy can have a deny, which is actually the best practice. It's best to give everyone permission through their group and then just deny per the user. You can also give a user permissions to resources, or resources permissions from users. It's actually probably better to give the resource permission first. Here you can see that we are allowing both. In user-based permissions, Christian can access DynamoDB and RDS, and then in the separate DynamoDB and RDS policies, Christian is allowed access to everything there too. It's probably best to start off with resource permissions only, and then deny per user. You can always add an explicit deny or add per resource or per user. I like to start off with adding the resource-based permissions first, and then layering the user permissions on after. Let's take a look at the policy evaluation logic and show you why it's very secure. First off, it starts with an explicit deny. We next then load all applicable policies for the specified user and resource when they try to access it. If there's an explicit deny, we deny right away. Doesn't matter how many times they're allowed. If there's an explicit allow, we allow it, and only in that instance. If there's neither, the access to the resource is denied. Federated users is something you're going to want to do at a large enterprise. This basically allows you to get around the 5,000 user hard limit in IAM. You can create an unlimited number of federated users. Let's walk through an actual access use case. Here you see that everything in orange and yellow belongs to the customer, while all resources in green are AWS. We start off with users wanting to access an ERP solution, which then accesses Amazon S3. When the users access that reporting application, the reporting application bounces them to a customer-created identity broker. The identity broker then looks up in the company's LDAP directory and grabs a specific policy for that given user and what they're trying to do. In step 4, we do an AWS token request for that policy, and AWS creates the token and hands it back, which flows through to the user. When the user goes to access Amazon S3 or whatever resource they're trying to in AWS, the resource then checks the token in IAM to make sure it's valid. And if the token is valid, you're granted access or denied if it's not. Jeff Barr's AWS blog at this specific URL has some more info on how to do this. IAM roles are very important because they obviate the need to copy sensitive credits to individual EC2 instances. It allows for centralized role management. To use an IAM role, you first create the role, then you create an IAM instance profile, and you launch a new instance into that IIP. MFA, or multi-factor authentication, is discussed in another deck, but let's take a look at some of its best practices here. It's a really good idea to lock sensitive operations to MFA, stuff like create and delete on EC2, and then keep the MFA in a company safe, with limited access to the safe combo. Only give the safe combo to users that are authorized. Then require an audit trail every time that someone needs to use the MFA. If consultants and partners use MFA, you also limit your security risk. With MFA, you don't have to worry about consultants and partners losing their password or those passwords getting in the wrong hands. And this can also enable compliance. This has been IAM Advanced Topics, and we should have a good understanding of all these areas now.